right. Well, my name is Derico Loyd, Delrico Loyd. My name is Derico Loyd, and I was reared and raised here in the city of Flint. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and after going through the foster care system, I was adopted by an amazing family here in the city of Flint, Michigan, an awesome family, which I believe is a testament to the strength and awesomeness of the people in this community.
There have been many problems and just changes uh, here in the city. What do you have to say about the city of Flint and the people of the city of Flint?
Well, the people in the city of Flint are amongst some of the most proud people in this country. Even with the challenges that the community has faced, there's such great pride for the history, the culture of this community, and the resilience, how we've come together and remained together through so many of the challenges that we face throughout this community. Moms and fathers, grandparents, even children who have so many shared stories down through the years and even during our current challenges and successes and victories. Um, in this community, I mean, you can find people that could have moved away, but have chosen to remain here to help not just sustain, but to rebuild this community, not to what it was, but to what this community will soon be.
Interesting that you say that, not to what it was, but to something different, right?
Sure.
That's a word that keeps coming up with people, resilient.
Mhm.
Um, what are some of the things that have happened here that tested people's resiliency?
Well, from the downturn of the automotive industry, where our community had multiple factories across this community that had thousands of employees. One plant in particular that had as many as 8,000 employees, to where we're now in a place where within the city of Flint proper, coming from about 80,000 General Motors employees, we're down below 10,000. And seeing the evolution of this community as we had individuals move out and relocate for work, or the transition of the generations, if you will, and how the community looks different than it did then. So many were residents within this community, lived, worked, played, worshiped in this community, gave back, and helped to create a better community. Now we are a community of individuals that watched uh, those who are more senior, us, um, build this community. Now we're coming behind, doing our part to try to create a new culture, because the community looks altogether different. From the downturn of our automotive industry to the challenges that we've had within our school systems, the consolidation of schools and the closing of schools. When we look at those challenges, the increase in crime as work became less available than it was in decades past, to even the water crisis and the challenges that we've had with illness and literacy challenges. Flynn has definitely been through his fair share of challenges. Some would even suggest that they mirror challenges of sometime even third world countries, but yet and still, the people have remained strong. The people have remained strong and committed to making sure that the walls of this city don't come down, but we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, to make sure that we're not only sustaining our uh, um, current culture, but that we are building a better and brighter future for our children. Because at the end of the day, when we're long gone, just as uh, many of our parents and leaders are gone, our children will be here, and their children will be here. And I think that's what Flint's about. We're not a community that has given up, but we're a community that has remained steadfast in the fight to make sure that the future of this community and our future generations remain.
Wow, that's great. What is your wish and what is your hope for Flint?
Well, my hope for Flint is that amongst the challenges that we face, that the community is not swayed from our responsibility and commitment as a culture together to make sure that this community remains. The wish is that leaders and pastors and business owners and residents alike will come together even the more with the shared focus of making sure that we together are doing our part to keep this city alive and to make sure that we are creating a culture that our children will not only thrive in, but a culture that they'll want to remain in to do their part to even take this community even farther.
Do you feel like enough opportunity exists currently to sustain generations of young people that can thrive here?
I believe that we're headed in the right direction as a community. I believe that so many have stepped up to the plate, even during our recent crisis, even the water crisis. You're seeing entrepreneurs, and you're seeing educators, and you're seeing activists, and you're seeing influencers that were not engaged in the past come to the table to say, hey, there's a place for us here. We don't have to move out of this community to find purpose and promise and destiny, but there's enough work for us to do here today, coming together in this community to do things and to keep the community moving forward.
That sounds hopeful. That's great. Tell me, Derico, what is it that you do?
So, so in terms of what I do you want me to talk about this is, because it's not live, so this is a question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you want me to talk about to this point or what I currently do now?
Let's talk about what you currently do now.
Okay, all right. So currently, after having been one of those young generations of UAW members being hired into a plant that is now closed now, I've had the opportunity and the awesome honor of now serving not only as a representative of the United Auto Workers Union International, but also as a representative of so many workers across this country, and particularly here in the city of Flint. Having served as a bargaining representative, now currently I serve as the top assistant to the international president of the UAW International Union.
Is the UAW going strong in this country?
The UAW has had so many challenges as of late that are no secret. However, there are so many that there are so many. Let me start over, because that's a compounded question you just asked me,
Oh, okay.
because there's been so much in the media about, and so here-
Do you want me to ask the question?
please.
Yeah. My question was about is the UAW currently strong here in Flint, Michigan? Or in this country, actually?
The strength of the union is based on the participation and the input of the workers and the members of the UAW. I believe that the UAW is strong here in our country. When you look at the quality contracts that we've been able to secure together for our workers, guaranteeing fair wages and benefits for our families and health care and working conditions that are not only safe, but working conditions that are mutually beneficial to not just the company, but our members. I believe that together we're creating a strong culture within our organization, within our membership ranks. You're seeing the participation and the activism of so many new members that have been hired over the recent past. Members that originally hired in during the time when the automotive industry was on a downturn. Plants were closing, and there was uncertainty about product and the future even of the organization. Bankruptcy and bailouts by the federal government just to keep the company even afloat. And so, but our members have been steadfast and resilient, and they had stood strong, and because of that, we still remain. We're able to make good wages and great wages for our families. We're able to buy those homes and drive those cars, actually products that we make because of the strength of our membership, because of the strength of our union, the strength of the contracts that we bargain, and because of our partnership with the company.
That's great. Um, I'd love to. I've been told that the labor union culture in this country was greatly affected by what happened here in the 30s
That's true.
with the sit down strike. Can you tell me what caused this event of the sit down strike and what has been what happened there and what has been the result?
Our foreparents, our aunts and our uncles and our grandparents from all over this country at one point in history, back in the early 1900s, relocated to the Flint community in search of jobs and in search of work, being able to provide for their families. And when they moved here, they found good paying jobs at that time, or higher wages than they were making in the South, here working for General Motors Corporation. But what they found when they arrived, is that they had no say-so in their working conditions, no say-so in their wages, no say-so in how they were treated by management at that time. As a matter of fact, some were accepted to work because they had no other alternatives to be able to provide a life for their families. But when they showed up, they found factories that were so hot that workers would literally pass out on the assembly line. In some instances, they would even be carried out by security guards that were employed by the corporation. Sometimes they would even be laid out in the middle of the sidewalk as the company walked down the line to those who were waiting outside for gainful employment, waiting for them to go out and point somebody out and say, you come in and replace the man that we've laid out on the sidewalk. It was horrible conditions. In the wintertime, there wasn't enough heat. In the summertime, there was no air conditioning. If you wanted to take a day off because you wanted to get married, or you were having a baby, or because someone in your family or yourself was ill, you had to choose between keeping your job or being fired because you wanted to go tend to your family. Horrible, horrible times. The way employees were spoken to by management, the way they were threatened, the way at times some of them were even beat up by security forces that were employed by the corporation. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible time. And so finally, at some point, there were members, leaders of the UAW, and there were members within those facilities that said to themselves and to each other that we have to do something about this. We should not have to work in these deplorable conditions. We should not be have to accept this horrible treatment by management, where we're just simply here trying to work to help the corporation, when in an exchange be paid fairly. When workers will walk in and talk to the bosses about getting a pay increase, they will be fired. They will be beat up because they were forced to accept at that time, so the corporation thought, what the company was giving them. When they walked in and asked for a consideration for better job opportunities, they were fired. As a matter of fact, the corporation literally hired forces to come in and work side by side with those workers, just to spy on them, to make sure that they didn't talk about coming together as a union, to make sure that there was no discussion about them standing up for themselves. How horrible, how unfortunate that truly was. And so one day the workers decided that it was time not just to stand up, but to sit down, to sit down and to take a position that this product is not more important than the health of our families. It's too hot in here. We're getting sick. We need time with our families. And so they came together and they decided to sit down, to stop the production, in search and in hope that the company would come to the table, as they hadn't been willing to do, to recognize them as a union, as a unit, to allow the workers to have a voice in the workplace. They went to the company in peace And the company chose to disregard them, to disrespect them, and at times to take violent action against them. And so it was in 1937 that the men in those facilities decided that they were going to come together. And they did just that. But unfortunately, they were met with some major opposition from the corporation. The company was not happy about it. They were infuriated because of the workers' decision and choice to stand up for themselves. And so they tried in all kind of ways to get the men out of the plant, and they were not successful because they come together and says, listen, after the way we've been treated, as little as they're paying us, the way we've been disrespected and our family has been disregarded, what do we have to lose? And so they sat down in the plant. They shut down this particular General Motors facility, and that began the sit-down strike. Word spread all over the country, maybe even all over the world. How dare these employees stand up to General Motors Corporation, who had been responsible for some of the things that was happening in the communities, had hired tens of thousands of people. How dare they stand up against the big old bully, as some of them called it, the corporation of General Motors? But they did, and ultimately they won.
Was there a United Auto Workers Union prior to the sit-down strike, or did the UAW come to be as a result of this?
The United Auto Workers Union was already in existence. One of our great former presidents, who's deceased now, Walter Reuther, was one of the leaders, along with his brother Victor Reuther, who was very instrumental and very much a communicator and leader during the great sit-down strike of 1937. And I do say great with some hesitation, because it was great not because of the happenings of the sit-down strike, but it was great because of the resilience of those who chose to sit down, those who supported them, great because of the success that they ultimately had.
So was the sit-down strike literally they sat, like they stopped working, they shut down the plant?
So they literally stopped working. The call went out, the people responded. The call went out, it's time for us to take a stand, but instead of standing, we're going to sit. Shut those machines off. Stop moving those materials. Stop supplying those lines. It's time for us to grab a paper and sit down and send a message to the corporation that we're going to sit here. We're going to literally stay here. We are not going to leave until you recognize us as a union, until you recognize that we do have a voice, until you recognize that we no longer have to take what we've been taking, because we've been sick and tired, and now it's time for us to do something about it.
Wow, that's such an inspiring chapter. Was that, I mean, in 1937, that was probably one of the first, it couldn't have been very common to have labor unions getting together that way, right?
You know, it was not common because the workers literally did not have a voice. They literally had to take whatever the company gave them, and from the company's perspective, they were expected to be happy about it, not to speak about their dissatisfaction with what was being given to them. But some would even argue that it wasn't given. Some would suggest that what they received was earned, but what they received wasn't enough. It wasn't a fair wage for a fair day's work. It wasn't the treatment that they deserved for the diligence that they employed when getting that product down that line. Some of them losing their lives in the midst of doing it. Some of them losing fingers and limbs in the midst of doing it. For a corporation that was concerned at the time about making money and getting the cars out, but not concerned about taking care of and caring for the people that were helping them to make all of the money that they were making. And believe me, they were making a whole lot of money at the time.
How long did the sit-down strike last?
The sit-down strike of 1937, after so much transpired, including workers being hurt, workers being beat up, women, the women's brigade, who so courageously came together to create their own force to help protect their men who they had become so concerned about being hurt or maybe even killed. They came together and they helped to bring food and they helped to bring water to the men. And then when the police of the city of Flint showed up, when various forces showed up, hired even by the corporation, when the National Guard even showed up, who Governor Frank Murphy at the time sent to help keep the peace. It was the women who used their bodies to link arms and to link shoulder to shoulder, to issue a challenge to the forces, the police, to say, listen, we know you'll harm our husbands, but I know you won't harm innocent women who are the mothers of children, who are waiting at home, not knowing if they're going to have a meal tomorrow because our men aren't receiving a paycheck during the sit-down strike. We don't know if the corporation's going to fire them when this is all over if we don't win. And so what do we have to lose? The women, they stood up for their men, and they used their bodies to protect their men. Ask me the question again.
I don't even, I was so taken by your story.
Yeah.
Do you know if any photographs or footage exists of the strike?
Yes. So there's, I know this isn't for the document, so I'm responding the way I am because I know you're going to use the footage for, what you're going to use it for. But there's some footage. There's a UAW museum at Wayne State University where they have like a lot of artifacts. You can go on YouTube as well. There's a number of videos there as well. And you should be able to find all kind of footage of the women locking shoulders. They had on their red. And that's one of the reasons why I wore red today, in honor of the women's brigaders, those courageous women that I just talked about, who so that they could be easily identified. Many of the women sold armbands that had the letter E and the letter B on it, so that when they needed to whisk to action to protect their men or to help provide a necessity, maybe food to their men, they could be easily identified in the midst of the tens of thousands of people that at times were outside of those facilities. And the truth is, you didn't know who they were unless they had on police uniforms, because what a lot of people don't know is that with so much support at the time for the sit-downers in terms of their families, the company tried to sow and they did. They sold a misinformation campaign. So as the workers are in the plants sitting down to take a stand for their rights and to have a voice in the workplace, and as they were receiving sympathy from people across the community saying, yes, we deserve better, a corporation went out and found people who felt the opposite, who were concerned about the troublemakers in the plant. You're going to harm the economy of the city. These plants have been down for almost 44 days at this time. No car has been shipped out of this factory. The future of our community is in peril. And so they did a campaign, the corporation with their partners, where they went to ordinary people across the city, sold disinformation, and they actually collected ballots. People actually submitted cards with their names on it, saying that they were not in support of the sit-down strikers. And they did this as a means of building additional support and opposition against the sit-downers, with hopes, we believe, that the governor and different elected officials and the leaders of the police departments and such would say, we know that these sit-downers are in here sitting down to take a stand, but there's more people across this community that are not in support, are being hurt by this, than those that are in the factories trying to stand up for themselves. And so they did that, and a lot of that is captured.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Did I ask you? I don't remember what you said. How long did the strike last?
44 days. The sit-down strike in 1937, it lasted 44 days, and to some, that doesn't seem like a long time. But when you're without food for periods of time, when the corporation has shut off, because it was the wintertime, when the corporation has shut off the heat. Let me start that over. You know, to some, the 44 days in which the sit-down strike in 1937 lasted doesn't seem like a whole lot of time. But to families who had not received paychecks, to homes that did not have enough food, to men who were inside the facilities in the midst of the wintertime, whereby the corporation had shut off all of the heating mechanisms. These guys were freezing in there, and their wives were even colder, those that were standing outside to make sure that the police did not get in. And so 44 long days, the sit-down strike in 1937. But I got to tell you that the men and their women, they persevered and they won.
That is such an amazing story. So when you say they won, what happened after the 44 days?
So after the 44 days, after 44 days of sitting down in the plant, not knowing what their future held, 44 days of having to encourage each other on a daily basis, because this had gone on too long, with so much uncertainty at that time in the minds and hearts of the sit-downers of, had we made a mistake? Are we going to lose this? Are we not going to have employment at all when this is done? Was this simply a lost cause, is what many of them thought. After persevering and after soliciting the partnership and the support of their brothers who were working not far away, still here in the city of Flint, at one of General Motors' engine plants, an engine plant that supplied factories all across the country and the world. Once they sat down and General Motors really was hit in their pocket, they knew that they had to come to the table. And so after 44 days and after the involvement, after the assistance of Governor Murphy at the time, they were able to get a contract with General Motors. They were able to get recognition as a union. They were able to get a voice in the workplace. And I got to tell you, some would think that after 44 days of so much violence and so much terror and so much hunger and so much uncertainty that the contract would have been, you know, maybe a book worth of language. The first contract stuck to the principles of why they sat down in the first place. The first contract was one page that just simply said that the General Motors Corporation recognizes the workers as members of the UAW. And while you're here, this is a side note, UAW Region 1D, so it's the regional office here that's located in the city of Flint. It's right past Chevy and the Hole where the sit-down took place. That's where the now Kettering University is, so it sits in that area. There's a park, a sit-down memorial park. I don't know if you have time. I know you're leaving today. Right outside that office. It's not very big. When you go out there, there's a monument right in the middle of it. You can pull that up online as well. Sit-down memorial park, you know, that kind of deal. Sit-down memorial. And there's a sculpture. It's surrounding and granted, it's pretty sizable, that has depicted two of the seats that you see in the older model cars, you know, in the 20s and 30s. So it's like two kind of metal, two seats sitting there, and then there's a couple men depicted there sitting on the seats. So they're sitting down, the sit-down strike. But on the side of that monument is the actual wording of the first contract that General Motors and the UAW had. And that one page that I just spoke about is literally etched on the side of that monument. So it's pretty remarkable to see. There's also a brick wall that's out there as another memorial that has a sculpture of a woman that was a part of the women's brigade that I just talked about, where when they were firing smoke into the buildings to flush the guys out, where the women would take sticks and break the windows out to let the smoke out. So there's a depiction of that. Then there's also a depiction of a little boy, because after a while they even brought kids out because the police not gonna harm the kids. So that's out there as well. So it's a pretty cool park, very, very small, but there's some pretty cool depictions out there. And the bricks from the wall in the memorial are actually from the windows in the memorial are actually from that particular plant.
It's such a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Really amazing. How do you think the result of the sit down strike with General Motors, how do you think that reverberated for the labor movement in this country?
After other corporations saw what had happened and the resilience of the people that actually sat down to stand up during the sit down strike in 1937, uh, other workers across the country took note, said if they can do this, if they can stand up for themselves, sit down to stand up for themselves, to be recognized, so can we. And others did. Some didn't have to because the corporations didn't want to lose money. They didn't want the attention. And so they just said, well, we don't want to, but I guess we're going to have to follow suit. And so did other companies follow suit.
And I'm sure this was a gradual process of what kind of benefits, what kind of, I don't know, things they gave to the workers. But as a result, the UAW today is a very strong union for its workers and
Sure.
guarantees them a good quality of life. Can you talk about that?
And so, because of what the men and women did during the sit down strike in 1937, because of the recognition that they secured as a result of their sacrifice, workers and members of the UAW leadership for years and generations to come have literally been building upon that very foundational agreement that they secured back in 1937. Every contract since has included language about recognition. As a matter of fact, most of the time it's within the first page of the contracts that are negotiated, not just for auto workers, but for those who are represented by the UAW that work in the area of aerospace, those that are college professors, those who build submarines, those who are healthcare workers, those who work in the hospitals, those that are technical office professionals, those who work in independent part suppliers, and the list goes on and on. Because of what happened during 1937, we all have that recognition in those contracts. All workers have it in that. And then over the years, we have continued to build upon that contract language. We continued to increase those wages, to secure better health care, to consider better working conditions. And now we don't have facilities where people go to work and have to worry about if they're going to work in safe conditions. We have mechanisms and agreements built into our contracts to make sure that if the facilities aren't safe, there are repercussions and there are legal ramifications to ensure that our workers and our members are treated fairly, not just if they're working in the automotive industry, but wherever they're working, represented by the United Auto Workers Union.
So the United Auto Workers Union represents people that are not actually working in the automotive industry.
So it's expanded, because of the contracts that we negotiated, because of the triumphs and victories that we've had, even in dealing with companies and corporations. There are so many that do not build vehicles that have said, hey, we need some help too. And so because of that, many of them have partnered in membership with the United Auto Workers Union. And as a result, we've become an organization that basically says, whosoever will, let them come.
That's great.
That's out of the scripture.
But is it really in the language?
No, whosoever will, let them come. No, but we'll, if you want to be a part of the United Auto Workers Union, we'll take you on. Now, obviously, there are.
You know what? Your collar on that side, just, yeah.
Right. So many attire issues today. It's not made to lay like this, so it's so weird.
No, it's the fabric.
Yeah.
It's like stiff kind of.
Sure. And it's American made, by the way.
When you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself, these Amazon warehouse people need to get together because it's like a modern day version
Yeah.
of unfair taking advantage of people that are in need.
You know, the unfortunate thing is, even after the sacrifice of the sit downers of 1937 and sacrifices that workers have made ever since to be treated fairly and to be recognized by the corporations, there are still so many across this country and world that are not happy that unions exist. There are business owners and corporations that would prefer that the workers not have a voice in the workplace. They would rather tell you what you're going to make, tell you how you're going to live, and how you're going to be treated versus you being able to stand up for yourself and to speak up and to request fair wages and fair treatment and and safe workplaces. And so there's a lot of opposition. There are people still today in this country that sometimes lose their jobs because they are in the workplace and speak of becoming a union. There's still opposition all across this country where companies work to intimidate workers because of their discussion about joining unions. It really is unfortunate because, we believe as workers, we believe as unions that when we do well, the company does well. When the company does well, we do well. And we have happier workforces. The company has happier employees because we know that the sacrifice that we make when we leave our families at home to spend hours at the workplace, we know that it is not in vain, that we win and you win, and we appreciate one another in the process.
And respect is everything. If you're
Mhm.
not respected as a human being, how can you? It's just. Let me ask you something about the labor union movement in general. Has it reached its peak? Is it weakened somehow? Is labor unions not as strong as they used to be?
That's an excellent question. Unions are still strong, but not as strong as they used to be. And we continue to fight every day to regain the strength that we once have. But the strength of the union is not just based on the involvement and participation and membership of its members, but also based on the density that we have within the sectors in which we work. In the automotive industry, there are so many foreign companies that are now producing product here in the States. There's been so much outsourcing of the work that we once did here in the States to other countries like Mexico, where workers are paid just unfathomable wages. They're compensated in a way that's just simply a disgrace. And because of that, it makes it harder at the bargaining table to negotiate those wages in which we deserve because now we're competing with companies that are non-union that pay their employees less. Um, Workers who have such challenges becoming unionized. And so our power is not just based on the participation in the membership and the membership of our members, but it's based on the density that we have. The less density we have, the harder it is to negotiate those wages because the more non-union workers, the more non-union factories that sprout up across the country and across the world, the lower the pay that these non-union workers receive, the harder it is for us to maintain a standard, a livable wage. The UAW helped create the middle class. We created the middle class. And the hard work, the challenge is maintaining that living wage and that middle class with so much opposition to unions in general and members having a voice in the workplace.
I think globalization has hurt the union movement, and also like when you think about low wages, think about China
Absolutely.
and all the stuff that's made there.
Absolutely. Obviously, it's helpful to all workers, particularly union workers, when there is a consistent emphasis on products being made in the United States. And we're so far down the road in terms of that being a challenge in this country that it'll take us time to come back. But what union workers and demanding that we buy America, that we buy what we make, that we support our unions and our families that are part of unions. I think that at some point we'll be further down the road of increasing that density and being in a position where we can demand from the corporations an even better wage and even better treatment.
There used to be a real movement to buy American. I think that should come back.
I think it should as well. I mean, with the challenges that we have in terms of union density, what so many that are working for companies that have challenges of becoming unions, it's created a dynamic. It's created a culture where some corporations feel it is okay to outsource work from the states. I mean, we had so much work even outsourced from the city of Flint to other countries. And so the less of a voice we have as workers and as a community, the least they see communities standing up demanding that the corporations remember the hard work that we've done, the harder it is for us to increase that density and to be able to have good paying jobs in our community. And we see that here even in the city of Flint. Obviously, there's been downturn of automotive industry, but as jobs have gone, people have gone. As people have gone, tax base has disintegrated. As tax base has disintegrated, more abandoned homes, and where there's lack of opportunity, then there's an increase in crime, and so you see this ripple effect that has happened as a result of the downturn and pull out of good paying jobs in our community. But we're hopeful and we're resilient and we're hopeful that as we continue to do our part, that we'll be able through union membership to get the companies to do their part.
And do you think that um, coming, some big institution or some big corporation or some big employer coming back into Flint would be a key in, I don't know, revitalizing the economy here? Do you think that Flint needs to do something to make that happen?
You know, I think that the challenge for, I believe the challenge in the city is not in the business of creating jobs but providing services. The city's job is to create those partnerships and encourage those businesses to come who will invest and help to create those jobs. I think that the challenge is that we didn't diversify earlier enough because of our loyalty to General Motors with so many jobs. How could we not be loyal? But as the downturn of the automotive industry happened, we didn't see that loyalty to us. And so it's basically forced us. And now it's become a culture where we've had to reinvent and recreate ourselves and rethink what we look like as a community, who we partner with. And, the unfortunate reality is the days of corporations coming and bringing 80,000 jobs may be about over. Miracles can happen, but I think that that's unlikely. And so now that's why the partnerships between organizations and entities are so key, because if this company does a little bit and this company adds a little bit, and we create a culture that makes it inviting for them to come, that puts us on the course to being able to have more than we've had in the past. And we're seeing increases in job creations in the city of Flint. We're seeing entrepreneurs be empowered and to start thinking out of the box about how they can not only be successful and make money, but how they can partner with the community to provide opportunity and such. And so as we continue to do that, we continue to see growth in the community.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so for sure.
This is a nice place.
It is. It's been hit hard. It's been hit so hard.
Were you personally affected by the water crisis?
I was not personally affected by the water crisis, only to the extent that when I would be staying up here, well, let me phrase that. I was up here full time, living here full time, as you know. When I was here full time, that was right at the onset of the water crisis. So I was impacted by the water crisis, but not to the extent that so many others have, that either lost their lives or were poisoned by the lead to the extent that they have issues concentrating and will have learning literacy challenges throughout the rest of their lives. But I remember and recall when I would shower, that water would come out of that shower and it would be discolored. It would have a stench to it, a smell to it. Sometimes even when showering, I'd have to get in the shower and get out as quick as I could because my skin would literally itch because of the poison in the water. You go throughout the day, no matter how you prepared your skin for your day, you'd have itches because of the consistent contact. I remember having to boil water when I would make spaghetti or cook a dish, having to boil water to wash dishes, and so on and so forth. And the challenges in terms of money being spent, having to flush some of that lead out of the pipes in my home because although there's so much money that came in to help fix some of the pipes that went from the service line in the street toward your house, there are other costs that some people incurred replacing plumbing inside of their home, plumbing in which that grants and funding did not take care of at certain points and in certain times. So was I impacted? I was impacted, but not as much as those that lost their lives. Not as impacted as those kids that will have learning challenges and disabilities for the remainder of their lives. Um, Not as much as the seniors in this community who, some of which lost hair, and those who did not have the support that they needed to get clean water had to boil that water and drink that water, even knowing that it was contaminated because they had no other choices. So,
And I'm sure people are still scared.
yes, yes, yes. People are still scared. So many don't trust that things have changed because, unfortunately, they've been let down by leadership. They've been lied to by those that they elected and should have been able to trust. An unfortunate thing is there's we can't undo the past. But what we can do is stand firm and hold leaders accountable in the future and continue to partner together to do our part to try to undo this terrible wrong that was done to not just this community, but the people of this community.
It's very important to keep the facts alive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The story you told about the sit down strike, people need to understand what labor union means. People need to understand what happened with the Flint water crisis
Hmm.
and not cover it up, but be very open about it.
Sure. One of the challenges that we have is keeping the history alive, the sacrifice that so many made alive, because if we don't keep it alive, generations to come will forget and not acknowledge the fact that we're able to make the great money that we make as members of the union, and we're able to live the lives that we live today, not because we sat down, but because others sat down. Although every day is a um, every day is a fight to make sure that we maintain what we have. But we have what we have, not just because of our resilience today, but because of the sacrifice of those yesterday.
This interview that we're doing right now, your voice is going to be part of a tapestry of voices talking about the history of Flint and from many, many different perspectives. I think it's so fantastic. What do you think about this exhibit that the Sloan Museum is putting on?
I think that this, you know, the fact that we're even having this conversation today and that the Sloan Museum is doing what they're doing just speaks to the commitment that's and love that so many have for this community. History has given us so many reasons to cry, but the work that so many are doing today to help to build this community and sustain this community and reinvent this community has given us so many reasons to smile. And I think this is one of those endeavors, an endeavor that we all can be proud of, that our children will be able to see and won't be able to just read about history, but they'll be watching so many of us contribute to this and be able to see history.
Yeah, it's super important.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm wondering, I think we're good. I'm wondering though if you have anything you would like to say that we haven't covered? Anything about the resilience of the people of Flint, or anything about the auto industry, or the labor movement, or anything at all?
Even those that have moved away for whatever reason, it says something about the strength of this city, the history of this city, the people in this city, that even when people move away, they're never too far to be concerned about what happens in this community. As you read papers and you stroll social media and you have discussions in any part of this country and sometime across the world, and you bump into people, people know about Flint. But not only do they know about it, they're concerned about the city of Flint. And that, I believe, gives us hope to know that we're not alone. Uh, and although we may be here in person, we're connected with so many across the world in spirit. Desire for us to do well, to continue to stride back to that place where we'll be that community that is a community of victors, survivors, a community of success stories that reverberate throughout generations to come. We are Flint, and we're here to stay. When it comes to the equipment in the General Motors factories, water is such an important component to many of the operations. And when that water is contaminated and is full of a mineral that is not friendly to the equipment, it causes major problems. And so we've had the intersection of the equipment and lead, dangerous levels of lead, harmful levels of lead that have worked its way through equipment, which has caused the equipment to not be reliable, for it not to work according to its original fabrications. And because of that, it's caused delays and caused the necessity for an influx of money to replace equipment or to fix equipment, which has impacted productivity even at times. And so now you see where the contamination of water has not just impacted persons and people, but operations and businesses, which ultimately impact the economy, not just of this community, but across this country and the world.
No, I'm sure. Let's hope that this crisis is coming to an end.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there's been so much talk about, a certain section of pipe from the supply out on the street that comes up to the house. But those aren't the only pipes that were messed up. Now you have the pipes that are inside of your house. So where you have lead that has remained inside plastic pipes, or if you have copper pipes that the lead that's helped to kind of break down some of that. So you have the repairs out in the street, but you have the plumbing inside of the home. And most people in the city can't afford to call a contractor and have them re-plumb their home, so they're forced to do it.
Somebody should be paying for that, not the people.
A lot of people who could move have moved, or they moved out into the suburbs, where you see suburban areas have thrived, and the city has continued to decline. We have so many people here that don't have that luxury of moving if they wanted to do so. Some of which that may have wanted to move but forced to stay here because of economic issues, being so economically deprived because of all of the challenges that we have. And so it's really made a bad situation that the people have tried to make the best of. And one of the best commodities that we've had in terms of having hope during this time is the partnership and collaboration, the love, the kinship of our sister and brother residents across this community.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about this, and we don't have to, but throw COVID on top of that, and then you have a whole
Oh, wow.
other layer of.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I live in New York City, and COVID brought my big, giant, great city to its knees.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the storm after the storm after the storm after the
Oh,
storm.
yeah.
The people have endured it though, have remained strong and have persevered. And so today we stand as a city that's not broken. We stand as a city that is not deterred. We stand as a people that have not given up the fight. We're working together to make sure the city remains and that it grows and that we thrive and becomes that city on that hill that our children and grandchildren and even their children can look back and say, I am who I am and I've become who I am, not just because of the work I've done, but because of the city and the people that I've come through.